Okay, so here are the answers to the last few of these graspable math questions. If you haven't watched the first video, we're reinvestigating the equivalent representations work that we did last week using Graspable math. And I've showed you how to answer these two questions about finding the cost for this one with 12 riders, or 12 rides, excuse me, and also how to figure out how many rides you can get for $55. And those two are demonstrated here. So we're now going to look at the other two scenarios. So the next scenario would cost $10 an hour for snowboard lessons and $40 for a lift ticket. So that equation is represented with C equals 10H plus 40. So the cost equals $10 per hour. So the H for the lesson plus the $40 lift ticket is your flat rate. So we're going to now figure out what the cost is for 2.5 hours. So again, we're going to grab the circle here to replicate this equation down here. And we're going to go insert math expression. And we now know that H is 2.5. So we're going to type in H equals 2.5. Now it's kind of in the middle of nowhere there, so we'll move to the left, just to the left of the expression, and move it over here. And we're going to take H equals 2.5 and substitute it in for H in the equation. So we can do that by grabbing H and plugging it in. And now you see 10 times 2.5 plus your $40 flat rate. Again, if I drag the bubbles just to the right, I'll be able to see these step by step. Now, 10 bracket 10.5. So remember, Graspable math likes to convert that to a multiplication. We can actually do that multiplication to get 25. And then 25 plus 40 gets us 65. And we find out that the cost for 2.5 lessons is $65. Now, let's answer this second question. How many hours costs $72.50? So if that's how much you spent, how many hours of lessons did you get? So again, we're going to grab the bubble to the side and replicate this equation. But now the information we have is not H, that's what we're trying to solve, it's C. So I'm going to go up to Insert, Math Expression, and go capital C equals 72.50. Done. And Graspable math here says 72.50, of course, is just 72.5, so that's what they're going to use. All right, and I moved it over here, so I'll grab the C. Remember, it's a capital C. This wouldn't work if it was a small c. And we're going to replace it with 72.5. I'm just going to click on the brackets to just get rid of those because there's no operations to do. And again, as I grab this, I can show those steps. I can show all the steps if I wanted, but I'm just going to show that first step there. Okay, now I have to solve. So to solve, I have to subtract 40 from both sides. So if I go and click on the equal sign and hold it, I get my equation. E is the equation, and I'm going to need to subtract 40 from both sides. So I'm going to go subtract 40 and push done. And you'll see it subtracts 40 from both sides. I can now click on the operation, and I'm going to do this subtraction here and this subtraction here in one step. I think I'm going to bring this up and show that happening in one step. So I've just subtracted 40 from this, which leaves just 10H, and subtracting 40 from this side, it gets me 32.5. I then need to divide both sides by 10, so I'm going to click and hold this equal sign, and I'm going to push divide by 10, and done. You can see that operation. And now I can click on the divide bar to divide, click on this divide bar, and you see it kind of shaking, and there's a little here, try a double tap. Because of the decimal, it's confirming that we want to do it. So if I double tap, I'll get that equation. So I think I'm just going to move this up and show both steps in one. And I find out that it costs $32, or sorry, you get 3.25 hours for $72.50. Of course, the $40 of that money goes towards the lift ticket, so we get rid of that much. We're left with $32.50 divided by $10 an hour. And it turns out our lesson was just over 3 hours long. All right, let's try scenario 3. Scenario 3, a reception hall charges $20 per person for dinner plus a $100 flat rate, a rental fee. So that's going to be 20 times P plus your $100 flat rate. So we'll go down here and scroll down, and I see scenario 3, 20P plus 100. So I'm going to go and copy that over. I can move it a little bit further underneath. Let's go and insert my known value now. I know that P is 75 people in this particular example. So I'm going to get P equals 75. I can now grab P and substitute it in for this. So now it becomes 20 times 75. Graspable math says that I click on that to say I'm going to multiply. And then remember, I can multiply first and then add to get my answer is 1600. How do I do the other opposite, or the other question where I got charged $3,000? I wonder how many people must have attended. So I'm going to paste it over there. Again, I'm going to go insert math expression, and I now know that capital C equals 3,000. Done. Move it up to here so it's out of the way. I'll grab capital C and replace it in for 3,000. If I click on the brackets, it'll eliminate those because there's no operations inside the brackets. So if the cost was $3,000, I know $100 goes towards that, so I have to subtract that 100 from both sides. So I'm going to click equals. Oops. If you don't hold it down long enough, it does that little switch. So I'm just going to undo that. So if you click and hold it down enough, then it pops up. I've got the equation. I have to subtract 100 from both sides. So subtract 100. You can see those operations here. Okay, I might need to move this over. Oh, actually, I'll just move this on the next line so you can see it. Okay. Sorry. There you go. You can see the subtract 100 happening there. And then I can click on this and go subtract 100. I don't know what's happening up there. Subtract here. Okay. Oh, I think what happened is it got mixed up with this equation. I'm just going to undo for a second. Okay. I'm going to move this back over just a side. All right. Let's do this again. So equals, hold it down, subtract 100. Done. Now I can actually do that operation. So there's the subtracting 100 from that side, and subtracting the 100 from that side. If you'd like to do that in just one step, you can grab the bubble and move up so you can see that happening here and here. Regardless, I have 2,900 now equals 20p because I've taken away the $100 rental fee, and the rest must be the cost for dinner. Since it's $20 per person, I'm going to have to divide both sides by 20. So click and hold, divide both sides by 20, click done. See that operation. I'll click on the divide bar to perform the operation twice, and I get P equals 145. And if you wanted to see those done at once, just move one step back by grabbing the bubble, and you see both operations are done at one step. So it tells me that 145 people attended, and that cost was 3,000. All right, let's look at the final one. The final one we had a couple of questions about. A couple of people emailed me questions about this. It says Morgan has $600 in her bank account, and she takes out $50 per week. So this time, we're going to start with $600, and the graph is going to go down. It's going to go down $50 at a time every week. So because it's going down, our first difference must be negative, and it's going down by 50. So that means the equation is negative 50 plus your $600. So I'll go back and go to scenario 4, and you see you get negative 50W plus 600. Another way that some people wrote this, and I'll just copy this over here, and if you click on the bubble, you can actually rewrite this. A few people wrote it like this, which is actually a great idea. 600 minus 50W, because then you start with the 600 and you see the 50W happening at different times, or every time you take it away. This is a great idea, And I'll show you how to use that equation in a second. But when I want it in y, sort of like y equals mx plus b form, I'm going to have the slope here, the first difference of negative 50, the rate of change of negative 50 here, and your flat rate at the end. Okay, but this is also good. Let's use this one first. So I'm going to go and grab it over here, copy it. It says this is for 8 weeks, so I'm going to insert an expression, and it's W in this case. W equals 8. Done. It's over here. Now I can quickly substitute in here, get 8. Let's see the steps. Do the multiplication. Multiply, I get negative 400. So that means they've taken away $400. Plus your 600 means a positive $200. So after 8 weeks, she's got $200 left. Let's see how that works for this other one. And in this case, I've got, this time it says how long before she has no money. Well, if she has no money, that means the C value must be 0. So I'm going to go insert C, capital C equals 0. Done. I'll move this over here so it doesn't get in the way like the last one. Let's take the C and substitute it in. So that's going to be a 0 now. And I'll just click on the brackets because there's no operations there. And now, if I want to isolate for W, I have to get rid of the 600. So I'm going to push equals, hold it down until it pops up. There we go. I need to subtract 600 from both sides. Push done. There it is. I'll move this down so it's on the next line. Let's perform the operation. Well, if I have 0 and I subtract 600, that's going to get me negative 600. And on this side, of course, 600 minus 600 is that. So you see, that time it did both steps in one. Now I have to get the negative 50 by, or sorry, the W by itself. Well, look at the steps I've been doing up here. It was 20p, I divided both sides by 20. It was 10h, I divided both sides by 10. So it doesn't matter if it's a W here. I'm going to divide both sides by negative 50. So I'm going to click and hold, and then push divide by negative 50. Done. All right. Now let's see that operations happening. There's that division and this division. And you can see now that the negative divided by a negative gets us 12. And we find out that she will have $0, no money, after 12 weeks. All right. Now, if you wanted to use this version of it, let's actually bring this guy down here. Let's see how it works with this version. So we're still going to sub in the W equals 8. So I can go and plug that in right there. Still do the multiplication. It's 400. And then 600 minus 400 is 200. We get that. Let's show those steps. There's one more step there. There we go. Let's hide that guy. That looks most like our stuff. Okay, so that's another way we could have used this version of the equation to answer it. Let's do this over here and try and use this version. So again, C is 0, so I'm going to take the, I can do it with the 0, I think, as well. Let me check. Yeah, I can sub in the 0. That's good. You can sub in the C as well. Again, I'll click just the bracket because there's no operation there. Let's push that back so we don't need to see that step. All right. Now, if I wanted to isolate for W, maybe it would make sense to move the W because it's negative on this side. So I could move the W over here. So we'll do that by adding a negative 50 or a 50W. That'd be the opposite operation. So let's push equals, and I'm going to go plus 50, and I have to type in W. So plus 50W. Go OK. So you see how I've added 50W to both sides. Let's add and see what happens. Well, of course, if we have a 0 over here, it's just 50W. And if I add here, I get that those W's disappearing. I'll just go back so it's in one step. Okay, so now I've made this a plus 50W equals 600. I'm going to divide both sides by 50, so click and hold. Divide by 50. And we'll see this operation getting W equals 12. Okay, so both of these methods will work nicely. This is more in the y equals mx plus b form, which we're going to need to use a lot more of later on. And this is kind of, for some people, this makes a little bit more sense. Start with a 600 and subtract. This is the best method for when you're using negative situations. Okay? All right, so I hope that you've enjoyed playing around with Graspable Math and you've been able to solve these problems because we're going to try and use this in the future. Thanks.